I just hope that once I get 1/3 of a million miles on my old chassis, I'm at least in half as good a shape as this car. Today, take a look at something a little different. This is a 1998 Volvo V90 station wagon. And really pretty basic car. Nothing special except for the fact that this one has traveled 339,000 miles. So knocking on the door of 1/3 of a million, on its way up. Owner I got this from is moving to Texas, and he's gonna be staying at the ranch house with his, I think, son and daughter-in-law, and it's just time to give up the old Volvo. So I made him an offer on it and picked it up. You see, pretty good condition for 25-year-old car with this mileage on it. Not perfect. It's got its own little warts and nicks all around it. And like any car, there's some things that are needing attention. He did maintain it very well. Always had it in at the dealership whenever it needed things. So you can tell this set of tires has about traveled the end of its life. And one of them's come off. He saw it starting to show cords, and so he put the little donut spare on. So needing a set of tires, and you always, when they're showing cords on one side, want to investigate why. I'm guessing this one probably has some wear in the tie rod ends. This got a steering rack. So I'm going to take it off to the guys and have them look it over, give it what it needs, give it an alignment. And when I picked the car up, it hadn't been started for about 2 weeks. So I did notice a bit of a puff of smoke out the tailpipe, probably valve seals. I've seen them listed on eBay for pretty reasonable per seal. It takes 24 of them, so do the math. Fortunately, it's up there on the top of the engine and not ridiculously complicated to get to them. Take a quick look inside, and you can see, just kind of neat to have a look at a car showing this kind of mileage. See the steering wheel's totally worn down. See your door panels. He'd actually replaced that whole seat. The power track had been giving trouble. A few little quirks of age. Whatever's in this column has come loose. So I might have the guys pull the cover off and see if that can be addressed. The good thing is I do have an entire parts car, which I wouldn't be crazy about swapping a column, especially considering these have the keyed ignition with all your anti-theft stuff. So it'd be a bit of a bugger to swap that whole column and then have to change all that stuff out of it. So ideally, if that column could be repaired in the car, or even if it has to be taken out to repair it, go back in, that would be the best. Then the shifter button, he said you have to press the little deal there to get it to come out into drive. But other than that, pretty well kept, good old durable car. These Volvos, they're pretty legendary Swedish engineering, especially for Volvo. The safety factor was a big part of the equation for them. And for whatever reason, I just kind of like these a little better than like I've had BMWs, I've had Mercedes, and you have to know your way around these European cars. It's just a little bit different approach. They are very good quality, but when it comes time to work on a few of the things, they just take a little bit different approach than what you're used to if you've been servicing American cars. So we're gonna take this thing down the road and send it on to get a little attention, and hopefully there's a few 100,000 more miles in this car. I mean, honestly, everybody knows about Irv, the guy that drove the million-mile Volvo, and it's had a few more decades than this car to do it, but we'll see. Look under the hood. This is the 2.9 liter inline six, so it's a pretty torquey motor. This is all aluminum, and as you can see on the cover there, 24 valve. Pretty robust, durable engines, obviously a third of a million miles, and a lot of that too does come down to proper maintenance. You have a vehicle that somebody doesn't care about and they just let it get ragged out, then you're going to have small maintenance issues turn into big ones, and then it's off to the junkyard. So see, the timing belt was just done this summer, and little stuff like that. He had always serviced this car at the Volvo dealer, so just gave it good care and upkeep, and that's a lot of the reason it's seen this mileage so far. So I did notice when I started the car, wasn't really that much smoke. I think the amount of time it had been sitting the last time was just probably most of the reason for that. So honestly, if a car like this was driven every day, every other day, weekly, schedule like that, you probably wouldn't see too much trouble out of those seals. The main trouble that you run into, honestly, is you get fouling on the spark plugs and on the valves themselves. It just makes a oil residue, and it's just not really good long term. So probably not too terribly concerned about those seals, but when I did look under the car, there's definitely some oil dripping off the engine, and that's more just a function of the age of the car, not necessarily the mileage. So I'll have them take a look and see. Some of these cars have gaskets, some of them have O-rings, some of them have pretty special O-rings, and a lot of that stuff, for only being 25 years old, should still be available for this car. But you can definitely tell the suspension's needing some work. There's kind of some banging and clattering going on the bumps. On the smooth parts of the road, it's fine. So we'll see. Usually the struts, I mean, I know some people are crazy about replacing shocks and struts regardless. I'm kind of more of the mind, if they're not cupping the tires, then, you know, I don't get too crazy over it. I know it is important to keep suspension parts in good shape, and I know, like back in the old days, bad shocks, if it's walking and hopping, you're gonna accelerate the wear on other parts. And the other thing too you have to keep in mind on a car with struts is they've got a bearing piece in the top that turns when you steer the car, and it's actually the top mount that holds the strut in the body on these unit body cars, where the body is integral to the frame. I've had cars where those make noise and it really doesn't hurt a whole lot. But the car actually really tracked pretty straight on the highway. You could let go of the wheel and you were still straight. When I hit the brakes to turn off, it still stayed straight. So I think most all of it should be really in pretty good shape. You can hear that suspension a little bit on the washboards on these dirt roads. Honestly, the car runs really great. The transmission shift's great. It's peppy. I just hope that once I get 1/3 miles on my old chassis, I'm at least in the half as good a shape as this car. Just about to pull in here and drop it off to the guys, and they're the professionals. They'll put this thing up on the rack, check it out, shake the tires, see where the wear is on the suspension parts. They'll put it on the alignment rack, and we'll figure out what we got going.